Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final episode of Coach's Corner and Bridging Impact podcast of the 2022 year. I am your host, Coach Furtado, and as a reminder, Coach's Corner is where I share the wisdom that I am learning from the week. And with this being the final episode of 2022, one of my favorite ways to spend the last few weeks is to reflect. And not only just reflect on the year, but just reflect on the past few years and look at the progress that I have been making. Because as someone who's an ambitious person who sets out, pretty high expectations for myself and goals to set and hit, it can be daunting sometimes to you know, day in, day out and be and wonder, am I really making progress? Right. And reflecting back over the year, really every time without a doubt, I always am like, wow, I made a ton of progress. And, at this time last year when I was, talking into the mic, number one, Bridging Impact hadn't even come out yet. So I'm really proud of what we have done with the podcast. We are at almost 1,000 listens. So I would love if you would share this episode and help us get to 1,000 listens by the end of 2022. I'm really proud to build Bridging Impact basketball training and really start to, I've had a few clients this year, and I know, it's just going to continue to grow because I really care about impacting youth. And it's something that I feel like, the universe has put me on here to do. And sometimes in the day to day, you can be like, oh, I don't have 25 clients yet. Oh my God, I'm not at 1 million YouTube subscribers yet, but I am about to be at 500 YouTube subscribers. And I was about 30 at the beginning of the year. So it's just recognizing that it takes time for things to really build and it's exponential. And those are some of the wins, the highlights. And I feel like one thing that I wrote about in the newsletter is I have really developed my confidence quite a bit in a lot of different areas. And I think again, going back to where I was last year at this time, I just did not like living in Los Angeles. It was really overwhelming for me as someone who is pretty much from rural areas. Even Eugene, Oregon is pretty rural. So especially nature, it's just a ginormous city. And I was really overwhelmed, but I think being thrown in the storm and being challenged is one of the reasons that I really helped develop my confidence. I think one of the things as a leader and something that I'm still working on to this day is really holding people accountable and holding a standard and not letting people slack off. I think that's something that I was always a little bit nervous or timid about, holding people to certain expectations, as in discipline, right? As in, I've kind of just let people slide and try and just give positive reinforcement when it's there, which, I do believe, I'm a big believer in there needs to be both, right? There needs to be positive reinforcement and there needs to also be, discipline and accountability. And I'm definitely much less afraid of confrontation and, conflict, which is, a pretty big step in a step for my confidence, because I feel like that was one of the things that was dragging my confidence down, is I didn't want to step on toes because I was timid or because I didn't want to start a conflict, right? So I was just like, okay, let's let it be. So that's still something I want to continue to work on, but I'm definitely improving a lot on while coaching Venice this season. I'm definitely improving a lot on, and I think because of the way I was raised, and I love my parents, but they didn't, address things in conflict. But one of the things that I'm learning through this experience with Venice basketball, through reflections, like journaling and, going on walks, is I'm just recognizing that I let my players know that I love them and I care about them every day, whether it's saying it to them or it's just building conversations in one-on-one. And I know that they're not going to like me at the end of every practice. And that's still something that's a little uncomfortable for me, but I'm growing with it and I'm growing through it, because they're not in the long run, right? Like, I had a conversation with them yesterday. My responsibility isn't to go undefeated as a frost shot season. It's number one to prepare them, for the rest of high school, and then for beyond high school to start planting the seeds of how to be successful as as young men in society. And that's really what I really feel like my responsibility is teaching those life lessons. And I'm really starting to embrace that and own that. And so that's so much of, you know, something that you don't really see in the day to day. And it's something that when you look at the big picture, when you zoom out and you reflect on the entire year, it's really amazing how much you grow. And so one of the things I like to do at the end of the year is I like to write, and I'm actually going to change it this year. So I'll talk about what I've done in the past and what I'm going to plan on doing in the future. Is in the past I have done I write basically a big long reflection on what are my highlights from the year. So I mean, a definite highlight that I will include in there is going and watching the Rams win the Super Bowl. That was the best sporting event I've ever been at, and I've been a part of a lot of amazing sporting events. So that was wonderful. There's a ton of other highlights and memories, but and then also uh, the learning lessons and wisdom, just from the year, like kind of like I'm talking about in sharing, just kind of growing through that. And one of the other things I was writing down during the newsletter, and one of the things I want to work on, is just being present in the moment. I can plan a lot. I like really love maximizing time, but sometimes I end up spending so much time trying to maximize my time. I almost don't maximize time. At least like I don't maximize my like personal downtime. And that's something that I've always been challenged with, and I probably always will be, as someone who's just an entrepreneur, an ambitious person who always is going out and getting it. Like I'm always trying to think about, how can I get my workout in? How can I make sure that I'm putting out my content? And so just trying to do a better job about being present in the moment is something that I'll be working on. So that's what I generally do, is just write, probably for about 30 minutes on both of those. Just let it flow. I don't, care about grammar. I just want to get thoughts on paper. At the end of the day, I'm not posting this, publishing, it's internal. So just really making sure that I get the thoughts on paper. I'm a big believer in journaling. I journal every single day. At the end of the day, I've done it before where I journal at the beginning of the day. So it really, just reflecting will be what you make of it. And I think the last thing that I'm going to try and do this year that I've seen other people do, and is an annual review. So it's more like 3 lessons I learned of the year. What's the theme of the year? 3 highlights. My favorite 5 songs of the year. My favorite books that I read this year. And so just creating some sort of kind of like more of an overview instead of just really long, reflections, which I honestly probably will do a little bit of both. And I think just the annual review will be cool way for me to kind of like, if it's 2027 and I look back to 2022, like, okay, these were the 3 big things. Like, oh, this is the year I realized like I want to become that I was put here to be a coach, and a basketball coach, and a coach for youth. And I've known that, but it's really the year I took steps forward. Oh, it's the year I started doing YouTube. It's the year where I started the Bridging Impact podcast and the Bridging Impact movement. So, just kind of like writing down some of those things, and maybe I'll kind of try and, if you follow me on social media, I'll put out, a little bit about annual reviews and, just what I'll be doing with that. And I want to encourage you and challenge you to take the time to reflect. I know the holidays can be quite busy, right? Like a lot of us are still working. Plus, we have to get presents for our our family members. We have to, or we get to, spend extra time with our family. And it sometimes can be a stressful time. And I know it's not always the most fun time for everyone, but I really do, implore people to try and take the time to reflect, whether it's a 15-20 minute walk, or it's you spend 10 to 15 minutes writing. You draw a picture of the year. However you best reflect is what I really encourage of. I'm a big believer in writing. I always come back with more clarity after I write, and I really enjoy, like, just connecting pen to paper is typically what I like to do, especially for my nightly ones. But when I do write my yearly reflections, because they're longer, I tend to type them. But it's still just like dumping all those ideas that are out in your head and that you're always constantly thinking about. So that's what I really would encourage you to do. I will be doing that in the next few weeks. And I really, again, I appreciate everyone for listening. I just make sure you're subscribed and you follow wherever you get your podcast. I'm really looking forward to growing Bridging Impact next year. And if you have any ideas of how we can improve the Bridging Impact audio experience and obviously the visual experience, will definitely be some editing. I'll have to pick up and learn that here in the new year for YouTube. But again, I really appreciate you all. It would mean a lot to me if you'd share this with a friend. I'm really hoping that we can get to 1,000 listens, and you are a part of the Bridging Impact community if you listen to this. We'll focus on trying to get out some more resources for you all, and trying to build out a community. That's what I'm really about. So Bridging Impact it's about transforming the next generation of leaders, and we're going to do it through athletics, and we want to empower and equip coaches with the skills and tools they need, and we also want to empower and equip athletes with the skills and tools they need to be successful. So I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful rest of your 2022, and I will be in your eyes and ears in the new year. Cheers, y'all.